Yes, hello everyone, Fáilte Rashkity Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cúilín Media. If you're new around here, get involved in the live chat. I want to give a big shout out to all of the people who've been in the live chat since about 10 minutes ago when the stream was created. We had a busy day here, lads. But Ryan Gallagher, Peter Griffin, hello, my name is James Keane Guckin. There's more people in there. Thank you so much for getting involved in the live chat. We're going to run through the whole weekend of action. Of course, we had round 3 taking place from the National Football Leagues. We had the opening round of the Camogie Leagues of 2026. We had round 4 of the LGFA's Division 4 and, of course, one refixed game in Division 1. That was our lot for this weekend. Aaron, bit of a better weekend from a Dublin perspective. We're on the board in the men's football finally. How are you keeping?
Yeah, good, keeping well. Yeah, it was a crazy weekend of football, camogie, ladies football. There was so much happening, so much to dissect and break down. And yeah, from a Dublin perspective, just relieved, I think, was more the word to use, like, with that game, because there was stages watching that game where I was thinking we are in for a long, long season, to be honest with you. Like when Monaghan went like 4 points up in the second half, and we were barely putting up a fight, and it just looked like, yeah, I just wanted the ground to nearly swallow me up at that point. I was thinking this is going to be a very, very long season. But to be fair, we stood up in the final 15, 20 minutes. We showed something. The lads who came off the bench made a big, big impact. And they saved Valentine's Day very much so by winning that game, to be fair. So, and then, yeah, it was nice watching all the other games as well. And there's a lot to get into, lads.
There certainly is. Liam, how are you keeping?
Well, I can see Ryan putting in a comment saying, have I recovered yet? No, I haven't. It's I'm going to presume by today that I catch up with Matthew. I did indeed. Yep, Matthew was beside me in Tullamore. We won't explain the photo that I sent in when he said he was enjoying his trip to the Midlands. But no, look, it was good to see him, and yeah, it was nice to be at a game again. But obviously, 6 games into the men's side, and we've lost all 6. The Camogie team lost yesterday, and the ladies footballers lost as well. So we've only the 2 wins in each code, in every code so far, which is not great. But look, we'll stay supporting them. We're known as the faithful. I'm going to stay faithful. So yeah, but look, the rest of the games of the weekend, plenty of drama. Certainly results I wasn't expecting, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. And from a little bit of, actually, you know what, from an entirely biased perspective, let's start off with this one, Aaron. Dublin won, Galway 18 points, Monaghan 17 points in Croke Park. We're on the board, and that's one thing that is positive. That's the positive you take out of this game. In a game where, as you correctly said, Aaron, we could very easily have ended up on the wrong side of this result. I was nervous with this game because we have struggled against Monaghan in the past. Remember that game where Stephen O'Hanlon shot the lights out 2 years ago to open up Division 1 that year? And I was just thinking the way that this game was coming about, given the teams that we still have to play, like we still have to play Kerry, we still have to play Galway, it's like some great teams left. I was thinking if we lose this, we're down. So thankfully, we've got over the line.
100%, yeah. Like it was, yeah. Like you can maybe nearly feel the nerves in the game, and for those who were in Croke Park, you can nearly feel it around the ground, maybe a little bit as well. With how big of a match it was for both counties. Yeah, like I think, look, we're relieved to win the game, but I think Monaghan will absolutely be kicking themselves. They'll believe that game was there to be won as well, and I do agree. I think a better team there, probably 5, maybe all the other Division 1 teams would have put us to the sword, to be honest with you. I think in the first half, definitely in the second half, when they were 4 points up, and some of the goal chances that they missed as well. Like, first of all, you have to credit Hugh O'Sullivan, who had a brilliant game. He made a number of big saves in the first half. His kickouts, I thought, were excellent as well. I think he could potentially be the long-term option for Dublin now moving forward. But yeah, some of the chances that Monaghan missed as well. Like, they put 2 big goal chances wide. I think one from Andrew Woods. And we got out of jail big time in regards to that, because those goals, like the momentum that could have given Monaghan, could have been absolutely huge. And look, Monaghan, for probably, up until about Con O'Callaghan's 2-pointer, which he scored around the 50th minute, Monaghan were arguably the better side, up until then. And we were struggling, but I think the substitutes by Jared Brennan were huge, to be fair. Padar O'Cuffik-Byrne made a big impact. Cúilín McGuinness and Joe Quigley as well. Like, big moment for him coming in from the 20s, getting himself a goal. And Con O'Callaghan, to be fair, stood up hugely with a couple of big 2-pointers. And, you know, in fairness to the lads, we needed them to step up in those final 10-15 minutes. We needed them to show something, and they absolutely did. And I think Jared Brennan probably learned a bit more about the squad as well in terms of players that will maybe now start versus Kerry. And look, I know we'll get on to Kerry. You know, Kerry will be favourites in that game, but Kerry are not exactly going at their absolute best at the moment either. Like, defensively, they are vulnerable, and I think there are areas there that Dublin can exploit next weekend. So it's maybe not a given necessarily that Kerry win that match, but yeah, overall, we get the win. We get the 2 points on the board, and happy enough to get the victory.
Liam, what was your take on it? What do you think the key moments in this one were?
Well, for me, it was nearly Rory Beggan putting over 2-pointer to put them 3 points in front. And at that stage, I'm not going to lie, I thought Monaghan had it. Monaghan have had a decent enough record in Croke Park over the last couple of years. And I don't know, I felt mostly because I just felt like it wasn't a very inspiring performance from Dublin. Like, I was just saying it to Aaron before we came on here, that it wasn't the best game of football in the world. But I felt like both teams were sort of struggling, and I was nearly wondering, where is Dublin's spark going to come from? And then, of course, look, you've Con O'Callaghan coming up with a 2-pointer, and then Joe Quigley's goal, which, by the way, I mean, I talk about a rocket into the top corner, an absolutely savage finish from him. There's no question about that. But yeah, look, the goal was probably the big moment to a degree, because it sort of kind of came out of nowhere, and it was such a good finish that it nearly rattled Monaghan to a degree, and it allowed Dublin to sort of finish the game out. But yeah, in terms of what I made of the game, look, I didn't think it was the best game in the world. I think Monaghan, for sure, now, I would have to say, are realistically probably going back down to Division 2. I had expectations of them coming into the season. Probably shows that maybe the retirements and Andy Moore and leaving has probably hit them a lot harder than even I anticipated, to be honest with you. And like the defeats away now to Roscommon and Dublin yesterday, like, you look at the opponents that they still have to play as well, isn't it? Galway, Kerry, and Donegal that they have left to play, like, you know, teams like that, and Mayo as well. Like, it's not looking ideal for them. It's not looking great for them. I'm not saying they won't get any points on the board, and, you know, we've seen them come back from the dead before, but I think, judging by yesterday's result, I could definitely see Monaghan heading straight back to Division 2. From Dublin, look, it was important for them to get a result. Look, they could still very easily go down. There's no question about that, but we saw last year, they went down to Kerry and were beaten at half-time, and then they turned it around and won it in the second half. So they're very capable of beating Kerry in Croke Park next week. There's no question about that, and especially with the way Kerry have sort of, not faltered, but like, you saw the way they kind of collapsed yesterday against Galway, and they weren't at their best against Donegal either, and sure, they weren't even at their best against Roscommon either. So, you know, Kerry have kind of been going through the league in a strange sort of way. Like, they've not been at their absolute best. They could turn around next weekend. It's a game against Dublin. They'll always want to be turning up for that. But yeah, look, not the best game of football, but very important, very, very important for Joe Brennan to get a first 2 points on the board.
Absolutely. It's just to get that first, you know, turn of the wheel, get your first points of the league, everything like that, because the longer it goes on, the more the pressure starts to build up. And this was a game where it is at home. It is against one of the teams that people are tipping to go down. If you want to be serious about staying in Division 1, you have to win this game. Simple as. Aaron, when we were coming into this game, me and you in particular were talking about, we need to just go straight flat out for this. Like, no experiments, no getting players into the squad. We need to go as strong as we can. I saw your tweet before the game. You were of the opinion that we kind of had done that, yet we still, am I fair in saying we're lucky to win? Is that in any way concerning?
It is a little bit, yeah. Like, there was probably some bigger performers, like more senior players, that probably underperformed a little bit, in my opinion. Don't think Kieran Kilkenny had his best game. I know he scored 2 points, but like, I don't think he was at the kind of standard we usually see from him, to be honest. And I think a few other players as well were a good bit off it. Like, even like Con was outrageous in the second half, but it took a while for us to get him in the game. Do you know, like, he wasn't really in the game in the first half. It felt like he nearly actually had to drop deeper, to be honest with you, and play in around the half forward line for him to actually get on ball. And I think that should be definitely something worth looking at. Look, we obviously do have Cormac Costello. I'm not entirely sure what the scenario is with him as to why he wasn't involved yesterday. I think it's an injury, but I haven't heard any confirmation on that, so I don't actually know. But hopefully...
Oh. Liam, do you want to jump in at the wheel? I can jump in at the wheel. Personally, looking at this situation, Costello will be back over the course of the year. I'd be fairly confident about that. The reality is it's slightly concerning for me that I think we went more or less with the best hand that we have. And I do think that we were fortunate that we came out with the win. I do think that on another day, Monaghan might have come out with that. Like Kid Cudi there, the comment that I read out, a Monaghan fan being at the game, talking about the goal chances missed and everything like that. And there is that sense that on another day, those might fly into the back of the net and Dublin don't win that game. But it's a very, very interesting, very, very... looks like Aidan remembers last week. The booing's beginning. Yeah.
It's the story of my life.
But it does...
Anyone got any good recommendations for internet?
Yeah.
Off at this stage.
It
always happens during these streams as well. Actually, everything else is usually
it only happens when you're talking. That's one thing I noticed as well.
Anytime it's a joke.
It never goes. Minute I throw a difficult question to you, it's like
someone from Mayo or Meath that's cutting your connection.
Yeah. Someone's cutting the connection before you get a chance to slate their county. But anyway, it's a very, very different season. Like I've never seen a season with Dublin where, like, maybe 2022 to some degree, in terms of, like, I'm talking about since we started winning the All-Irelands. 2022 was like people were massively underestimating how good we were at the time, but like the reality is now we are very much in a transition. Most of the All-Ireland winning crop in the 2010s, most of them are gone now. Like if we're talking about the spine of the team, most of them are gone. And it's just, I've never, like, I don't remember a season where so little has been expected of Dublin. We're not even favourites for Leinster for a lot of people. A lot of people have Meath and Louth as more likely to win Leinster than us this year. So it's going to be very, very interesting watching. And it was only a couple of years ago that people were talking about you should dissolve the Leinster Championship and scrap it and come up with a new championship structure and everything like that. So a lot has changed very, very quickly. But I think for J.R. Brennan, there's one quote that I seen. It was in the book. It was in the book about Dublin's road to Sam Maguire in 2011. It was written by Malachy Clerkin. And I remember there was one quote that was about Mickey Whelan, that he took over after Pat O'Neill after the 1995 All-Ireland win. And Mickey Whelan came in, very, very respected coach. But it said he was probably the right man at the wrong time. And then it was one quote that Malachy put in, which was perfect. He said, when the only way is down, it's not fun being the pilot. And the reality is Dublin are going to go through a transition. Whether we can still be successful in that transition, who knows? Kerry won an All-Ireland in a transition in 2014, famously. You can still be successful. But the reality is the baton is being passed from that unbelievable crop onto the next. And it's just, how are we going to fare in that period? Or is it going to go like Kilkenny and we're going to be 11 years and counting without an All-Ireland? So very difficult to understand, to know exactly what's going to happen. Peter here saying on current form, Meath look like the front runners for Leinster. Kid Cudi with a question directly to myself and Aaron. He says, what do the lads think success for Dublin would be this season? Aaron, do you want to take the wheel on that one first?
Yeah, I think it's, if you had asked me before the start of the season, I might have had a different answer. And maybe that answer could change again in another couple of weeks' time. But I would probably say at this stage, staying up in Division 1, I think I'd be happy with that. And then in Leinster, yeah, it does sound a bit bizarre, but like I think if we get to a Leinster final and it is against Meath and we give absolutely everything, we throw it all out on the table, give the absolute best version of ourselves. If we come up short by a point or by 2 points, I can understand it. But for me, then afterwards, All-Ireland quarter-final minimum. And again, it's the same. Like against Tyrone last year, I felt like we kind of fizzled out. We never really put up a real fight. I just want a real fight, a real battle. And then I could understand it because I do think Meath are a serious team as well. Like I think they are. you know, like a top 5, top 6 team in the country, in you know, in my opinion at the moment. So, you know, I think that's the reality of it. I know it sounds mad considering we won like 13, 14 Leinsters in a row, but you know, I do think things have changed. We've regressed, but I think Meath have also dramatically improved. So, you know, it's mad how the tables have switched a bit here.
Yeah, I think for me, if we avoid relegation in Division 1 while getting minutes into the lads like Luke Brannock and Alex Gavin and people like that, if we can get minutes into those lads, if then we can also win the Leinster Championship. I'm not buying that we've fallen that far back. Like Gerard Brennan won Leinster with Louth last season, and that was their expectations to win Leinster. I know it was still like an unbelievable achievement, but that was the goal. To move to Dublin then, who've won, you know, the previous 14 Leinster titles. Like the goal is obviously to win the Leinster Championship. So I think that would quantify getting back on top in the province. If I'm being realistic, an All-Ireland final, I think, is a little bit optimistic this year, in my opinion, especially going through the transition. Maybe if the draw is friendly to us, maybe. But I think getting to the Final Four while getting minutes into those lads for the future and winning the Leinster Championship back, from me, that's a successful season. Yeah, Jack here saying quarter-final, depending who they face, is good enough. Gaelic guy saying the goal for Dublin should be to win anything and everything. Unfortunately, can't see that. Well, we're going to move on just actually real quick because we have mainly spoken about Dublin in this section. I still think, you know, we're a good team. I just think we are very much in the pack now, and I don't see us as the favourites for the All-Ireland, but I wouldn't completely write us off, but I wouldn't have us in the top 3 right now. I think Donegal are above us. I think Kerry are above us. I'd say probably in Championship, Armagh will be above us as well. So it'd be difficult, but who knows what way it will all pan out. But anyway, I wanted to give a word as well, Liam, to Monaghan before we move off this section. Obviously, we were talking about the opportunities that they've missed. So they've lost their 3 games, the 3 opening games. They've lost to Armagh heavily. They lost to Roscommon fairly heavily, and now they've lost to Dublin as well. We've seen them pull the rabbit out of the hat many times, but if they pull this rabbit out of the hat, I mean, it's fairly spectacular, no?
It would be, to be honest with you, and especially when you look at the opponents that they do have left, to be honest with you. I think it's... Look, I like this Monaghan team. I like their manager, and I think they do play some very, very good football. Obviously, look, saying that, like, I wasn't exactly loving last night's game, but I just fear that losing like, you look at Roscommon, the difference. I mean, even in their defeat to Kerry, they still easily could have won that. They probably should have won that, to be honest with you, you know. And like, they've had 2 positive wins now, and relegation is definitely not on their mind at the moment. You know, I know they still have difficult games to come, but they could be looking beyond staying up now. Do you know what I mean? They could be looking at maybe a top 3 finish or something. Whereas Monaghan, it just feels very negative at the moment. And yeah, look, especially with Kerry and Donegal left to play, I do sort of worry for them, to be honest with you. Like, they're capable of pulling a rabbit out of the hat, absolutely. When you've got Bannigan in your team, when you've got Desi Ward in your team, when you've got Rory Began in your team, anything's absolutely possible. But for them, I just simply don't see it happening. And unfortunately, from their perspective, I think Division 2 is calling for 2027.
Do you think that will impact them heavily in the Championship?
I don't think so. I think they'll still be competitive enough in the Ulster Championship. And look, Championship is different to League at the end of the day. And I still think, you know, give them a bit of time as well. You know, they can use this in a way. They could use it as a fuel as well, to a degree. You know, they could use it and say, look, the league wasn't good enough. We need a response here in the Championship. And what better way than responding than by maybe, if not winning an Ulster title, reaching an Ulster final or something, or pulling off an unbelievable win in Ulster. So I wouldn't write them off completely for the Championship, but in terms of the league, I think it's going to be a rocky end to them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they'll probably go down. And I think, you see, I find it very, very difficult to say that Roscommon will go one of the candidates after what they've done. Roscommon have already been far better in Division 1 than I thought that they would be. And the reality is my main question from a Monaghan perspective would be, we all saw the Division 2 final last year. We all saw how much better Monaghan looked than Roscommon on the day. Therefore, how do Roscommon look so much better than Monaghan do in Division 1? And let's be honest, Roscommon still have the Bridget lads to come back in. So what is different in the Roscommon camp to the Monaghan camp? Gaelic guy here saying, I said it yesterday, but since Bannigan came in, Monaghan haven't been a Division 1 side. Best side he has beat was Meath in the league last year. Shane here saying, still disappointed Kerry didn't close out the game last night, but I'm not one bit worried and happy that Trant, Evans and Heinrich all performed well and kept their head up. Peter saying a Monaghan miracle is unlikely. And Porter here giving Roscommon props, and that's what we are going to move on to next. This was a fantastic victory for Roscommon. Roscommon 3-18, Armagh 24 points in Dr. Hyde Park. Roscommon hit the back of the net 3 times and beat Armagh at the Hyde. It's a massive, massive win for Roscommon. Back-to-back wins now over Monaghan and now Armagh, respectively. When it comes to the fight to stay up, Roscommon definitely are making a hell of a go with it. And with Dara Craig and Diarmuid Murtagh up front, they have a real dynamic duo there. Outrageous scoring between the two of them. Enda Smith also on fire. Liam, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, it's a fabulous win for Roscommon to beat the All-Ireland champions from 2024 is absolutely savage. And especially with the way Armagh were performing in the first 2 games, like we'd referenced it, especially on Thursday night show, that like, you know, the defeat against Galway nearly wasn't a fair reflection on their game because they were the better side than Galway realistically. And, you know, it's one thing that, you know, a lot of people have been maybe criticising Armagh for and criticising Kieran McGeeney for is them maybe fisting the ball over the bar instead of taking on goal chances. And that's probably maybe what let them down to a degree the last day. But today, I mean, we said it during the week that I thought Armagh would maybe scrape a late win and that Roscommon would give it their absolute all and they might just fall away. But listen, credit to Roscommon. And I'm happy to hold my hands up and say I was wrong about Roscommon when we did our predictions. Like I'm delighted to see them putting up this fight and delighted to see them, you know, in this position now because it only improves them as a football team. It'll make the Connacht Championship even stronger. It'll make them better potential candidates going into the All-Ireland series or anything like that. But yeah, like you mentioned there, Diarmuid Murtagh, Dara Craig, 113 between the two of them is just absolutely savage. Then Enda Smith, I mean, sure, he just defies time logic, to be honest with you. He's an absolute warrior on the pitch, but very disappointing from an Armagh perspective. Look, I can imagine that there was a strong wind, I'd imagine, from the game, as there probably was all over the country today. But 2-14 to 8 points down at half time. Like, even I was looking at this when I was in Tullamore and I was like, surely that's not true. Do you know, just because of how good, like, no disrespect to Roscommon, but just more Armagh, their last 2 performances. I mean, they put 126 past Monaghan from play out of their 127. They probably should have beaten Galway the last day. I was just so pleasantly surprised by this. And then as the game goes on, look, Roscommon keep them at arm's length. Armagh get back into the game a small bit. And then Paul Carey getting the goal with a couple of minutes to go essentially sealed the game. I know a couple of 2-pointers at the end kind of narrowed the gap a small bit. But yeah, that's a massive, massive win for Roscommon. And yeah, 4 points out of 6 after 3 games. At 1 point defeat to Kerry, which some people will still be obviously upset about over the ending to that. But yeah, 2 wins out of 3. It's been a great start for them. And you mentioned maybe a big difference in Roscommon. Mark Dowd coming in as manager has probably made a huge, huge impact, to be honest with you, from Davy Burke last year. And like you mentioned, Bridget's players to come back as well. Say it quietly, you know, Roscommon they're moving very nicely. And, you know, coming up to the Connacht Championship, I mean, we've seen them win Connacht Championships throughout the 2010s. And, you know, they go all out to win a Connacht Championship as well. So, yeah, we might be in for a more interesting Connacht Championship than even I anticipated.
I think it's probably fair to say that Galway's level has slightly declined a little bit this year. I don't think they're the team that they were heading into the 2024 season. And yet I think Mayo are better than they were a couple of years ago. And I think Roscommon right now look better than they did at this stage last year. So going into the Connacht Championship this year is going to be really, really interesting to see how that shapes up. The reality is Roscommon have just found a way so far to play that suits them. And it does make, like, people were surprised by that opening round against Kerry, how good they looked, how high up they pressed on Kerry, how aggressive they were with Kerry. And the reality is that the way that their league campaign has unfolded since then, it shows that first week was no fluke. Like, they've arrived on business. And as Gaelic guy here saying, genuinely think Roscommon will win Connacht. As this goes on, I could definitely see Roscommon winning, Connacht. No question about it. Cúilín, the football genius here, saying Armagh with a dire performance overall. 2 goals conceded in 20 seconds is scandalous. Could have even won it, but wides and ref decisions didn't help us. Serious danger of us going down. And that's from, again, one of the most passionate Armagh men you'll meet. Like, I predicted Armagh to go down at the very, very beginning, and it was a prediction I winced while making because I really do think this Armagh team are brilliant. But I saw Tyrone go down last year with 7 points. So I was like looking at the fixtures and I was thinking, God, anyone could go down. Then when they hammered Monaghan in round 1, I was going, okay, terrible call. But now they've lost back-to-back games to Galway at home and now to Roscommon away. And I still, even though Roscommon have looked great, I wouldn't put them in the category of being safe. I don't know how much I cut out there, but I basically, Roscommon, even though they've looked fantastic, I still don't put them in the category of being entirely safe and secure. No way they're going down. Same thing with Galway. So is it absurd now to say that Armagh are in serious danger of going down, Liam?
Oh God, no. Like Armagh in the position they're in now could easily go down. There's no question about that. I mean, who have they played so far? They've played Monaghan, they've played Galway, and they've played Roscommon. They still have Dublin to play. They have Donegal to play. They have Kerry to play, and is it Mayo they have to play? Mayo they have to play as well. Like 4 notoriously difficult games, and especially with now Kerry even sitting on 3 points, albeit look, they're not getting relegated. Kerry are not getting relegated. Let's be honest about that. But like as much as we say anybody can get relegated, I think Kerry is probably the exception, to be honest with you. But Kerry now are probably pissed off after drawing with Galway and upset. They probably are upset over losing to Donegal, and they could be now looking at the rest of the league going, we need to shape up here because we won the All-Ireland last year and we need to prove that we are the best side in the country. And in terms of Donegal, I mean, listen, Armagh Donegal is always a fiery fixture. I mean, we could see a UFC type thing like we did with Meath and Louth last night after we could see 4 red cards in the first 2 minutes. You run your hands there, loving it. But yeah, like Donegal have had the edge on Armagh over the last couple of years as well. Like they have, let's be honest. And could it come back and bite them again? And you think if they lose those 2 games, they've Mayo left and who it's Dublin. Like if Dublin are also still fighting for their, safety as well, whisper it quietly. Like it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Like I predicted them to finish second, and like yourself, after the opening day, I thought, okay, this is looking like a good prediction. And then even after last weekend, I was like, okay, look, they should have won the game. I still think it's a good one. And now after today, I'm like, right, that wasn't my best call. But look, still a long way to go. But they're definitely in a relegation talk. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I think I could see anybody bar Donegal and Kerry going down.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I think Donegal are safe. We'll get into their game next. Kerry, it's like I can't wrap my brain around Kerry being relegated, to be honest. Dublin, I used to not be able to see us getting relegated, and then we did, and then the glass shattered on that, and now I've got PTSD from it. So I definitely won't rule that out. But yeah, I think the rest are all in danger of it, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. Aaron, what's your take on this game? Obviously, a huge, huge win for Roscommon. We threw it into the group chat, especially after the opening of the game and how fast Roscommon shot ahead. Obviously, the 2 goals in 20 seconds that Cúilín mentioned. Like, just their forwards, like Dermot Murta with 1-7, Enda Smith 1-2, Dara Craig 6 points. They're figuring out a way to get the ball into their most dangerous players' hands consistently. And the numbers that they're putting up, new rules or not, it has been hugely impressive so far.
Yeah, I think like what marked out, I think like the shackles have been let off a little bit with Roscommon. Like I feel like last season, particularly under Davy Burke, like there was that kind of word of overcoached kind of being thrown around. There were it was possession-based football. It was keeping the ball. It was waiting for opportunities. It was slowing the game down and all this kind of crack that was from the previous rules that a lot of teams used to do. And I don't think Roscommon and Davy Burke had developed the new rules into their football as of yet. But that definitely is not the case now. Like, as you said, with Dermot Murta, who I think pound for pound has been the best player, I think, so far this year. Early days, like I think he scored the most, and some of the 2-pointers he was kicking like in Hyde Park, I mean, absolutely outrageous stuff. And the Smith as well has been outstanding. Like he could have scored a hat-trick the last day versus Monaghan, gets a goal today. He's been absolutely brilliant. Dara Craig's been a great addition to the team as well. And as we were saying there, you know, they still have the likes of Ben O'Carroll to come back, and we saw how good Rory Fallon was in that final. He could be a great addition to this team as well. So yeah, Roscommon are motoring very, very well, very, very strong, and they're definitely a team that should be taken seriously. And then from an Armagh perspective, yeah, it was kind of bizarre, like watching them in the first half, like they were cut open time and time again. I think defensively, there does have to be massive questions asked, because they conceded 3 goals against Galway. I know one of them was the goal from the free that kind of bobbled in, but they have been quite suspect defensively, and there is kind of a concern and a worry in regards to that. It was also as well like some of the mistakes they were making, like misplaced passes, handling errors, and yeah, it's not been a good start from an Armagh perspective. And with Donegal and Mayo next, you know, like they're sleepwalking into dangerous territory. Like the funny thing is, I could nearly actually probably see them beating Donegal next week. I know that sounds bizarre, but Donegal, it might be a game where Donegal leave all the big lads at home because they don't want to give anything away.
No
I don't
way.
think so, no.
No, if they have a chance to bury Armagh, if they have a chance to put the nail in the coffin and nearly and kick them closer to relegation.
But Jim McGuinness is a cheeky, do you know what I mean? Like I could just see him leaving the lads at home because they have nothing to worry about, and them losing to Armagh would nearly suit them as well, because it would just, you know, it would go under the radar and it would maybe take the pressure off them a bit. I don't know. It's an interesting respect.
Jim just going into the game dropping everyone, like literally not playing anyone who was in the senior squad last year. No. I do think that I would be surprised if Donegal take the foot off the gas for that game. I would be surprised because of the animosity between both of those camps. Hello, my name is James. Says Dublin, Armagh, and Meath, Tyrone, and Croke Park will be a good day out, lads. Oh, that's going to be some game. Gaelic guy here saying as well, think we'll beat Donegal and Dublin and lose to Kerry and Mayo and scrape safety. And that's the prediction from Gaelic guy, a passionate Armagh fan there. So obviously take that into consideration. Peter here saying Jimmy going full steam ahead. Ryan saying I'd love to see Shane McGinley play senior football. I remember his goal in the under-20 was one of the best goals I've seen an under-20 player score.
Oh, Seamus is cut out.
Oh, I thought that was me. So I was just getting ready to switch to the hotspot there. But there we go.
Jesus, yeah. I could see the one comment here. I can see why Aaron's Wi-Fi could have stopped him from embarrassing himself. God Almighty!
Yeah. Maybe it's doing me a favor. It's just cutting it, you know. It just overhears me or something.
Oh, and we've got Peter coming in with a boo as well. Cheers, Peter. Thanks for that. I'll make sure mine doesn't cut out anyway. But yeah, look. I suppose going on the point that he was saying about Armagh. Look, relegation definitely potentially on the cards for Armagh. Roscommon at the moment, moving very nicely, and you know, you never know. A Connacht Championship, a return. Yep, Seamus is gone. A return to winning the Connacht title could very well be in the balance, I suppose. Look, while we're here, we may as well move on to the next set of fixtures that happened over the weekend, and we're going to move over to the game that took place last night as well. I mean, Kerry and Galway, Aaron, it's a strange one because, again, Kerry, look, they are probably still the best side in the country, but a defeat against Donegal away from home, probably, look, they had a lot of players that weren't playing that night, a lot of players that were resting. But then last night, in such a commanding position, no stress whatsoever. You know, they were kicking some good scores. Obviously, probably had a helping hand from the 2 goals that they got as well from the poor Galway goalkeeper. But a positive result from Galway and another dramatic second half comeback. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, it was mental, really. Like it was mad because like you were watching Galway at times in this game and you were thinking, geez, they look dead and buried. Like they look like they're in serious bother. You know, like when they had 1-3, was it in the first half? I know there was a strong wind and everything else, and that obviously played a big factor. But like even a time, like it was weird because the comeback came very, very late. You know, like it wasn't a case of them sort of gradually kind of coming back. Like Kerry looked very, very comfortable for large parts of the second half, but fair play, they stood up massively, and it wasn't actually a case of 2 pointers or anything doing the damage. It was goals, and Galway were just running straight through the heart of Galway's defence. Like John Maher was outstanding. Matthew Finnerty as well, getting some big goals. And yeah, it was worrying really from a Kerry perspective in terms of how easily they were cut open. Like Galway were just running straight through them. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really like smart patterns of play or anything like that. It was direct kind of running from John Maher, Matthew Finnerty, Rob Finnerty a bit as well. And yeah, Kerry collapsed, and it does seem to be a bit of a running theme, maybe intra-league, where this does seem to be happening, because it happened against Dublin last year as well. So it's a little bit unusual from a Kerry perspective. But look, at the same time, I don't think Kerry fans will be panicking or anything like that. They had some new players within their team as well, in terms of Killian Trant, Keith Evans as well. There was a lot, there was obviously some experienced heads like David Clifford and Sean O'Shea, but I think for Kerry, when you looked at their bench, they didn't really have that and they could bring on, just to kind of see them over the line. Like you look at Roscommon, they could bring a Paul Carey off the bench or someone like that just to kind of see the game out. Whereas Kerry didn't really have that. They obviously will have that later in the year when they get, the Gainies kind of back into the side, the Dingle lads, and maybe Killian Spillane as well. But they just didn't really have that, I think, to contribute and toward massively. But look, at the same time, at least from a Kerry perspective, as annoyed as you'd be, at least you didn't lose the game. You still got something. Because if you had lost the game, that would have been a bigger thing. But at least you didn't lose the game, at least, which I'll take.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting question coming in here about lads who's winning the All-Ireland this year. I still think Kerry are probably still the strongest team in the country, but Donegal are giving me a lot of reasons at the moment to believe that they can turn it around from 2025 and go that extra mile this year and bring Sam Maguire back up north. But I have to say, look, there are players, like you mentioned there, to come back, and even Brian O'Brigliock as well, who I think is a massive, massive miss, especially from wing back at the moment. I think he just has such a driving engine from wing back. He's sort of like Ronan Wallace or Brian O'Driscoll from Cork or Westmeath. I think he's such an engine on him. He's a great scorer as well. One player I thought really performed well last night, he only got to 1 point, but I thought Tony Brosnan looked very, very sharp as well, and he's getting back to nearly his best as well. David Clifford was thrown in a full forward, got his goal. Very fortunate. Look, I felt for Eamon McGrath last night in goals, the two mistakes that led to the two goals. It wasn't it's never nice to see that happened to someone, but Clifford still came up with 1-6. I believe all 1-6 was from play, wasn't it? Yeah, it was all from play, which is very, very impressive considering the conditions he was in. Keith Evans getting 1-2 as well. Micheál Burns, who does a lot of work off the ball, scoring 1-2 as well. So there were still a lot of positive performers for Kerry, but like you mentioned there, probably just don't have the strength coming off the bench at the moment that they probably will have when the Munster Championship rolls around, when the All-Ireland series rolls around. But from a Galway perspective, I suppose you look at them and you think Shane Walsh, Damien Comer, they're out of the team. Maybe Robert Finnerty's not having one of those games. You're thinking, who's the player that's going to step up for them? And for me, that one player that I've always wanted to see really, really step up was Matthew Tierney. Very, very impressed with him. Have been over the last number of years as a wand of a left foot as well. But another man that stepped up last night, he was given man the match by RT, was Shane McGrath, kicking 5 points in the end. He looked very, very good at that wing forward position. Yeah,
he did. He was outstanding. He kicked a couple of big 2-pointers in the game. And I think that's been the big thing with Galway, has been like as you said, that there always seems to be so much of a focus on Walsh and Comer, and they're not motoring the same way when they don't have them. They got Matthew Thompson into the side last season, and he looked like a big addition. They've obviously lost him for the league. He'll be back later in the championship. You players like Cillian O'Corrine, obviously playing Sigerson, as well as another one who looked like a kind of a new player. And now they've got Shane McGrath. Kieran Mulhern was one who stood out on the opening day of the league. So yeah, it's huge to kind of be introducing these players. And he said, like, he kicked some phenomenal 2-pointers, especially at the start of the second half, just to kind of give Galway a bit of a breeding ground. But yeah, like it's a mad one with Galway, because they've had patches in this season where they've looked probably like the worst team in this division, but they've then gone on an incredible run and managed to turn it around. Like, to have 3 points on the board whilst having large parts of the game not playing well, like, I think they'll be absolutely buzzing with that, surely.
Absolutely, and especially with their last two opponents being the last two All-Ireland winners as well, and the two counties that have denied them two Sam Maguire titles over the last couple of years. The final point at the end from Shane McGrath as well was one that really caught my eye, just simply from the fact of you can remember last year, Ryan O'Donoghue kicked a point for Mayo in the Connacht final, and it should have been a 2-pointer, but it was given as a 1-pointer because it was touched over by the goalkeeper. Last night, Shane McGrath's 2-pointer at the end, it was touched as it went over the bar by Shane Murphy, but interesting this year, it was given as a 2-pointer. Had that been last year, Galway would have lost that game in the end by a point, but this year, coincidentally, they've drawn the game. I would say I kind of agree with the fact that it should be still given as a 2-pointer, even if the keeper does get a slight touch on it or maybe helps it over at the end. What's your take on that?
Yeah, say that again. Actually, my cutout, my internet was doing havoc this time.
It's happening to all of us now. Just the 2-pointer at the end from Shane McGrath. Although it was touched over by Shane Murphy, the new rules this year, it's given as a 2-pointer in comparison to last year. Agree with that move?
I think so. Yeah. Like originally, like I was kind of thinking, like technically it's not a 2-pointer because it's dropped short and the keeper's kind of tapped it over. Do you know what I mean? It's a save in many ways, but I think at the same time it is kind of a harsh one because again it's it does go over the bar at the end of the day. It's kind of like if you take a shot and it deflects and then goes over, it's kind of the same. It's the same premise really. In my opinion. So. Yeah, no, I think it is a fair decision, and again, you don't want to be penalising players. It would seem very harsh, like imagine if it was an all-Ireland final or something like that, and someone kicks a 2-pointer and then it's tapped over by the goalkeeper and they give it as a 1 point. I think there'd be absolute uproar. So no, I think it's the right decision to be fair.
Yeah, I would probably agree. I think it just adds to the suspension as well. It adds to the game, adds to the bit of drama. But yeah, a draw for both sides, both on 3 points at the moment. And I suppose after 3 games, they'd probably have taken it. But one side who are just absolutely running away with the league at the moment is Donegal, picking up another victory today over Mayo. Probably convincing enough in the end, I would say. 119 to 14 points over Andy Moran's side. His first defeat as Mayo manager, but I suppose if you were to pinpoint a game where he was maybe going to lose in his first 3 games, it was probably going to be this one.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think, it was always going to be tough going away going away to Donegal, considering how strong they've started. I think this was Donegal's best performance so far as well. I think they were really, really strong in all regards. It was a slow performance by Mayo. It took them a long time really to get going, probably the second half. But even at that, Donegal were very, very comfortable. And again, Oisín Gallen coming back into the side, making a big impact, 6 points from him. Conor McCahill, who came into the side, getting 3 points as well, I think, which is absolutely huge to kind of find another lad to come into the side. Conor O'Donnell as well, scoring 1-3. So, yeah, no, I think there was a lot of strong positives, I think, from a Donegal perspective. And I think it's one of them to have gotten wins against Mayo, Dublin, and Kerry in their opening 3 games. Like, it's very, very strong. And I don't know what you think. I'd be curious to know what you think. Like, there are some people that are saying, will Donegal now drop off and kind of do what they've done in previous seasons? Like, although I've kind of said before, I think maybe Armagh might just take them next weekend. But I still don't think Donegal will hugely drop off. Do you know what I mean? I still think they'll push for that league final because it's not the same gap as it was last season. But what do you think? Do you think Donegal might drop off a bit?
I would have maybe a few weeks ago, but now I'm thinking, do you know what? No, I'd say Jim McGuinness wants a national title. He wants to win something before he goes into the Ulster Championship, goes into the All-Ireland series. And like, if he, like, literally there, if it did Kerry no harm last year, and to a degree, it also did Cork no harm last year, winning the National Hurling League. Okay, they lost the All-Ireland in the second half, but they still won a Munster title, got to an All-Ireland final. Kerry won the All-Ireland, won the Munster title. So maybe winning the league to a degree might actually help Donegal a small bit. You've won the Ulster Championship, you've gotten to an All-Ireland final, you win a National League. Now all that's left to do, which they're very capable of doing, as proven so far and proven last year, get back to an All-Ireland final and just put in the performance over the 70 minutes that we know you're capable of doing. And even when you look at today as well, I mean, Michael Murphy was only a 20-minute sub, like they didn't need him mainly for the large majority of this game. You had Oisín Gallen, who again only played about 50 minutes, scored 6 points, really, really impressive from him. You had the half forward line of O'Donnell, Moore, and O'Donnell again, who again were performing very, very well. And Mr. Brady has made his dramatic return. I'm surprised we didn't have WWE music in the background. But, Cena's out of retirement, folks. But yeah, Seamus, we were just talking about Donegal Mayo there. We were just wondering, do you think Jim McGuinness will absolutely want to go for the clean sweep this year and instead of dropping off like he has the last couple of years, do you see him maybe going on something like what Kerry did last year, what Cork did to a degree last year, and seeing the league as something that could really catapult them to go and win an All-Ireland this year?
I think so, and I think it was interesting looking at Neil McGee's comments after the game to TG Cahill when he was giving the interview. He definitely hinted at it, like there's no question about it. He said, like, aim to win it now, and he was saying now that they're relatively safe, why not kick on and try win it from where the position that they're in? And that's a completely different tune than McGuinness was spinning last year, where the minute that they lost, he was saying, sure, it's just the league, and it doesn't really matter and everything like that. So I do believe that they're going for it way, way more than they were last year. And I think the way that they've started off this league campaign, it isn't as much of a trailblaze, even though they've won 3 out of 3. Like, make no mistake about it. Do you remember last year, everyone was talking about the parallels between last year and the 2012 season? That like McGuinness came back, it was the second year. The first year he was there in 2011, they won Ulster and got to an All-Ireland semi-final. 2024, won Ulster, got to an All-Ireland semi-final. Michael Murphy comes back, that Armagh game, the pandemonium when Murphy came in and Aidan Forker got sent off. Murphy scores a point inside 15 seconds. And Donegal went on to win that game. It's very, very hard to quell that hype. And I think McGuinness was aware of the hype last year. How all of a sudden everyone's like, Donegal are going to win the All-Ireland 100%. I think he's not a fan of that. Yeah. This year, even though they won 3 out of 3, even though they've beaten Kerry, Dublin, and now Mayo, they're actually not being as hyped up as they were this time last year. And I think it's because of the way that they lost last year's All-Ireland final, where Kerry did just look like they were just a level above. So it's interesting to look at it. This game in particular, the Donegal-Mayo clash, look, you have to give big props just on the game itself. You have to give big props to Conor O'Donnell. He's absolutely now a key member of this team. It'll be interesting to see as a Kitog, as somebody on the left foot, how much will he come in terms of filling the role that Paddy McBurty once had? Like, is he going to take on then shots on the left foot? Because Kieran Thompson was one of the key kickers for that. They've got plenty on the right foot with Gallen, with Darrow Boyle, with Michael Murphy. But it'll be interesting to see how O'Donnell is, used throughout the championship. It's going to be a fascinating watch. I'll be very interested to see their next clash. I know we were talking about it earlier with Armagh. We were questioning, would they take their foot off the gas? I don't think they will. I think McGuinness will want to push Armagh close to relegation, as well as get Donegal another point on the board. And Neil McGee pretty much said as much. They're going for the final. They're going to win it. And I think Kerry have showcased that winning the league won't actually really harm your championship campaign if you manage it right. So I think they're going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think definitely after winning these first 3 games, they could be looking at it and thinking there's an opportunity here to get ourselves a national title. And like you mentioned there, did no harm for Kerry last year, almost did no harm for Cork last year as well, albeit for the second half performance against Tip. So we'll just wait and see. From a Mayo perspective, Aaron, I mean, look, they still have 2 wins out of 3, 2 impressive wins as well in their opening rounds. And look, it's going away to Donegal, who were All-Ireland finalists last year, Ulster champions. And I mean, look, some of the performers today, like you mentioned, O'Donnell and Gallen in particular, getting 1-9 between them, really, really impressing. But how would you look back on this game from a Mayo perspective?
Yeah, it was very flat. They were very slow in terms of getting going. Like, they didn't score their first points until I think it was around the 15th minute, and Ryan O'Donoghue scored a 2-pointer. They were playing with the wind in the first half, and they weren't really utilising it, to be honest with you. They weren't really playing with the same vigour or poise that they played in the last games. What you would say, though, and I think we said it in the preview show, like, Mayo's shooting accuracy against Dublin was actually quite poor. Like, they only had 50%, a little bit under 50% shooting accuracy. But because of the fact that they were getting so many chances, they were getting a lot more space in that game that they were in this game. It meant that they were still able to win the game. And obviously in this one, playing against a much better side, it ends up that they end up scoring less. So, they kind of struggled in that regard. They struggled to get a lot of their bigger players into the game, like Dara Byrne with 2 points. Jordan Flynn with 2. Even a lot of their bench, like Fergal Boland only gets a point. James Carr obviously goes off with an injury. So they did struggle a little bit in relation to that. But I think at the same time, you could see probably in the last 10, 15 minutes, and it probably is a common trend with a lot of teams at the early part of the league, the game is gone. There's no point, going hell for leather to try to get back into it. Throwing long balls or, throwing men on and everything else and breaking a leg to try and come back into it. I think Mayo probably looked at this and thought, right, not all there on the pitch and set it all together, but I think maybe subconsciously realised, this game is gone. Let's not break a sweat here. It's not a bad defeat to have necessarily. I think Mayo would have snapped your hand off for 4 points after 3 games. Monaghan next week, which they'll probably win, if we're being honest, then they're back up to 6 points. So, I don't think Mayo have anything to worry about in terms of relegation worries or anything like that. And I think it's a tough loss to take, but I think you have to say it's against probably one of the best teams in the country. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's Division 1 covered, and we still have a good bit to get through. So we're going to move kindly over to Division 2, very begrudgingly from my perspective. I'm glad Matthew's not on with us this evening from that perspective. But we're going to go to Division 2, and I suppose we may as well start with that very game that took place today. Cork 3-15, Offaly 19 points, which took place in O'Connor Park. Yeah, Matthew's on the way back from Tullamore at the moment. I hope he enjoyed the victory and the performance, because I certainly didn't. But no, look, just speaking from someone who was at this game, Cork were a better side. There's no question about that. They were 2-9 to 6 points up at halftime. Colm O'Callaghan gotten 2 goals in the first half, and Chris Oak-Jones set the 2 of them up. And Chris Oak-Jones, I have to say, was absolutely fantastic. Stephen Sherlock, a corner forward, kind of was just playing at his leisure, to be honest with you. I was kicking over points like it was relatively light work. And yeah, look, just overall, Cork were very much in control of this game. Offaly weren't really able to get up to them and put pressure on them. They were kind of static at times. Offaly would win a ball back from a turnover. I think Matthew actually said to me after the game, Offaly had more turnovers in this game, which was absolutely remarkable. But they would then break, but then the handbrake would come on as they would reach maybe the 30-yard line, and they're trying to recycle the ball back out and trying to get nearly a perfect score or something. Then as soon as Cork win the ball back, they're down the other end of the field, quick 1-2s, balls over the bar, easy work. So Offaly sort of had a handbrake on the first half. They were playing with the wind, so there was a big worry going into halftime that we were 9 points down, playing against the wind. If this become a cricket score. I'll give them credit. They came out in the second half and they performed a lot better. Harry Plunkett ended the game with 8 points. Keith O'Neill got 5 points from play. But just overall, Cork were by far, in a way, the most dominant side in this game. Mark Cronin as well, who I should have mentioned as well, got 1-4 from centre forward and was just absolutely sensational. Kicked some really, really nice scores as well. But yeah, Seamus, 3 wins from 3 for Cork. And look, they have tough games to come. Meath next weekend, which is going to be a battle down in Páirc Uí Rinn as well. They have Tyrone and Derry to still face as well. But Cork are looking relatively good at the moment.
They are looking good. And the reality is that there was a genuine excitement when we seen like Stephen Sherlock, the news that he was returning to the panel and everything like that. But the reality is I was a little bit cautious because I've seen Cork have flat starts before. And especially, I remember last season, was it last season that they got that win against Cavan or Fermanagh, and it ended up saving their bacon? Like, they've had flat starts before, and the trouble that they've had with getting Sherlock and Hurley on the same field and playing coherently together and everything like that. But the reality is 3 wins out of 3, and I would argue the most impressive out the bunch is going away to Louth and getting the win. Like, that's going away to the current Leinster champions and beating them is a very, very impressive feather in the cap, and they are moving in the right direction. There's no question about it. It was interesting because when we did the quick picks, Cork are one of those counties that a lot of people are very, very split on. Like, in the comments, there was a lot of people in the comments saying Cork are getting relegated, Cork are getting promoted, and there seemed to be very, very little in between. So they are a difficult team to read. They are quite inconsistent. I do think this year, though, they look more consistent. They look more nailed on. You have a better idea of who their starting team is. You have a better idea that, look, it's going to be Ian Maguire and Colm O'Callaghan in the middle. Their key shooters are Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock. The key defenders is the likes of Daniel O'Mahony. We know what they're coming with now, and what they're coming with is a very, very solid team. And Aaron, I thought last year when we played Cork, that was a very, very tight game. Like, that game could have gone another way on another given day. So they are definitely moving in the right direction. And this game was always going to be tricky going away to an Offaly side that, to be honest, I think, Liam, correct me if I'm wrong, but Offaly looking at potential relegation, like they're team, like that the home games have to be ones that they're ready for. And you talked well on it there. Seems like Cork just struck at key moments. And throughout that, like even though Offaly put up a decent tally of 19 points, the goals, were key for Cork, obviously, here. Yeah, I think they're moving in the right direction. I picked them to just miss promotion. I picked them to finish third. I picked Tyrone to top the group, and I picked Meath to finish. I picked Cork to finish fourth. I picked Derry to finish third. And I think I'll be very, very interested to see, though, because Cork, yes, they've looked good. They've won 3 in a row. They haven't played Meath. They haven't played Tyrone. They haven't played Derry. When they play them, then we'll know where they're at.
Absolutely. And we have Gaelic Statsman in here, of course, Matthew Hurley putting in the comment. As for us, win is a win, but should have been a bigger margin. Glad we're now in a promotion charge. And then he puts in brackets, we are before anyone says. And also comes up with that win against Meath. That game against Meath, I should say, in Parky Rin is huge. Mark Cronin, brilliantly consistent. Colin O'Callaghan, unbelievable too. One of the best mids in the country. And there were some questions in for me as well. Was Cormac Egan playing? He was playing at wing back. Looked a bit sharper today. Got a nice 2-pointer at the start of the game. So hopefully it kind of kicks him on. But he's also looking a small bit tired at the moment, I would say. He's had a very long year with Offaly and Tullamore, as well as playing colleges. Maybe a rest. Could do him no harm, to be honest with you. And what would be a good achievement for the season ahead? Well, survival, but I don't think that's happening at this stage. As much as I want to be, I suppose if I want to be optimistic, survival, but I don't see it happening as we speak, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks with Cork, and especially with their next opponent, which we're going to move on to next. A great UFC match that took place last night between Louth and Meath in Croke Park. Meath winning out 120 to 22 points. And I suppose, Aaron, before we even get into the game, the incident at the start, 4 black cards in the opening minute, and a few players with their shirts off. So I was very much expecting Stone Cold music to hit or something like that. But a very impressive win for Meath, but a mad start to the game.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Like, as I was saying earlier, I wasn't in Croke Park, but like a few friends I know were kind of saying to me very quickly, like, who kind of caught some of the game. They were saying, yeah, like it was just, I feel like a lot of the players just wanted to have a scrap before, it was like a pre-agreement. Maybe they were messaging each other before the game or something and saying, do you want to just have a knock or something before the match? I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not too sure how the tops were flying off and everything else. And I don't know what was going on there. We'll definitely have to see this on Alliance League Sunday if they do show it, because maybe they might not want to show it. I'm not sure, but from the clips, it did look quite bad. To be fair, but yeah, a bit of a mental game as well. It kind of had the same trend as Kerry Galway in the sense that Meath, cooked up a huge lead. They were 10-11 points up, I think, at half time. Rory Kinsella was absolutely outstanding. Jack Flynn again doing the business, and you're kind of looking at it and thinking, geez, like this looks awfully worrying from a Louth perspective to be getting beat this comfortably by your big rivals. Look, obviously Sam Roy was one of the players who was black carded, so there's no doubt it probably had a bigger impact maybe on Louth in those opening 10 minutes because they're losing their captain and their heavy hitter and their sharpshooter and all that. But fair play to Louth. Look, they came roaring back into it in the second half, made a real game of it, to be fair. And they were within a couple of seconds really of winning the game, but up steps Jack Flynn for the second game in a row. Like, it's kind of incredible, really. I mean, Meath have 6 points on the board, but if it wasn't for him, they'd have 2 points on the board. So, yeah, I'd say he must be getting well looked after by the lads in the Royal County after his last 2 performances and his last 2 winners.
Absolutely. We have a couple of comments in here. Again, Ryan Gallagher saying Jack Flynn again in capital letters. Aidan saying there was hardly any need for black cards, no punches thrown, just pushing around. Even yellow cards might have been harsh. Peter saying Horse not really getting a tune out of Louth. And then Carol 2499 saying Meath are working hard, making hard work of average teams and didn't turn up for first 22 minutes against Derry. Cork will be relishing a home game against us. And also saying here, Ryan Gallagher saying Meath only had 5 scores in the second half. I suppose, Seamus, from a Louth perspective, maybe more so than a Meath perspective, it's 2 defeats out of 3, and their victory came against Offaly, so I don't know if that counts. I'm joking, but but no, that's shocking. That's shocking. But is it worrying times for Louth to a degree? You know, they weren't, from what we've heard from Match, obviously, who was at the game, they weren't at their best against Cork, and even yesterday, okay, they had to fight back in the second half. But is it worrying times for Louth, or is it just simply, look, it's early days, we still put up a good fight against Meath, and you know, we still have a long way to go in this competition?
No, I wouldn't say it's worrying times at all for Louth. I think you look at the two teams that they lost to. They lost to two good teams. That the trajectory for both Cork and Meath is on the up. And let's be honest, like the Meath and Louth, just to go back to it, the schmozzle between Meath and Louth, were any of us surprised? Like, I mean, the way that the Leinster final went, the way that the rivalry is between the two counties, even before the 2010 Leinster final debacle. I mean, the rivalry's always been pretty intense between Meath and Louth, and then the fact that Louth beat Meath in that Leinster final when Meath probably thought, okay, we've done the hard part now, we've beat Dublin. Meath fans probably think like, oh, surely we're going to kick on and win Leinster now. So, I mean, I wasn't stunned when it kicked off, but I was stunned at how fast it kicked off. Like the minute that, from the accounts, the minute that one of them went in, and as you said, Aaron, I'd be interested to see on League Sunday, like how did so many jerseys end up off? Like usually they're ripped, like the chest is usually exposed, but the jersey is still on. It seemed like, yeah, I don't know how so many jerseys ended up on the ground, but yeah, very, very interesting. My disappointment with this game, and it's very annoying now at this stage, again, not being shown. Because I was looking at the games this weekend, and Meath and Louth and Croke Park, I was thinking I'd love to watch that game. Can't watch it anywhere. And like, it's so frustrating when that happens as a fan. I get that you have the broadcasting and everything, but we've seen with the club championships the unbelievable things that can be done in terms of showing games from across the country at the same time. I look at this situation and go, we've got GA Plus not showing the league, Clubber not showing the league. Stream Sport are showing LGFA league, am I correct? Stream Sport do a bit of LGFA and they do a bit of Camogie, I think. And then we've got the individual county YouTube channels. Like Dublin, for example, stream all their games free on Dubs TV. And we've had this discussion time and time again. But my take on it is, I absolutely agree that you should have your primary broadcaster. And if RTE have first dibs, if TG Car have first dibs, then if GA Plus and a championship game have first dibs on the game, I get that. But once that primary broadcaster says, we are not showing this game, in my opinion, there should be something in the contract that then once they pass up on the game, it defaults and it goes to the next person. So if RTE had first dibs on it and TG Car a second, if RTE say we're not showing that game, it goes to TG Car. If TG Car say, sorry, we're full, we can't get a camera crew to it, then it goes to Clubber.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? That it makes its way down the chain and we guarantee that somebody watches it. Because the argument as well of, oh, well, you need a certain standard and you need to have a certain amount of cameras at the game and everything. Nope. Do you remember Super Sunday last year with TG Car where there were 3 games being live streamed on YouTube at the same time as the one that was on telly and they were bouncing between the streams and everything like that? I didn't see one comment from one person talking about, oh, there's a lack of camera angles here. This isn't good enough. People were delighted that the games were available to watch. That's all we want as fans. We've had Meath and Louth not being shown. Crazy decision. That's like, you're leaving so many fans behind there. If we want the game to be exposed, if we want fans, if we want eyeballs on the game, that's a massive game to leave out. Dublin and Mayo wasn't shown. Like, are you kidding me? Like, Dublin Mayo, 2 of the biggest fan bases, pound for pound, in the country, playing each other, not being shown anywhere. So frustrating. And yeah, I do really like Dublin and Clare was another one as well. Like the biggest game you could argue in Division 1B.
Yeah. Not
being shown. Like it's just frustrating. And when we're talking about how we want the game to grow, how we want Gaelic football to grow, how we want hurling to grow, having big games in the league just not being shown. Because I used to buy into the whole, sorry, I know I'm kind of going in circles here, but I used to buy the whole, oh, you can only get so many people. But like, the club championship and what club are due and how many games club are able to show, that tells me that, like, actually, no, you literally just need one cameraman and one commentator to get down to that game, and there you go. So, and if you had asked most GAA fans, would you rather Meath and Louth be shown live on Meath's YouTube channel or the GAA's YouTube channel, or not shown at all? What one are they picking? And that's the thing that's most frustrating, is we know that there was a cameraman there because it's going to be shown on League Sunday. That's what's annoying.
100%. And even going back to last year, Cork and Limerick was nearly not shown until TG Cahir, to their credit, ended up showing the game in the end. These games can easily be shown, and people are not worried about the quality of camera or even the quality of commentator. To be honest, they can be as biased as they want. They just want to be able to see the game, and that's the main thing. A couple of comments in here. Louth made a wrong game of this. Louth should have been let to Rhea at the end. They have history, says Peter. Did you see Rory Story's video? I did. Yeah, Rory's not holding back anyways with his Louth, his version of Louth anyway. There's no question about that. Mark here saying Louth have Tyrone next week. Could be a shootout with Cavan for them to stay up and play Sam Maguire. Peter saying flashing the stats fest. Jesus, yeah, that's a vision we don't really need, to be honest with you. And speaking of games not on TV, we had Kildare and Derry. That was also not on TV, and it's kind of a shame as well, because we have a load of comments in here as well about GA Plus. Aidan here saying GA Plus needs to be funded properly. It would be great to see any league game proper channel.
Absolutely. And can I just add on one thing there?
Yeah.
Their thing they're doing, The View, class. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I'm listening every Monday and every Friday at 1 p.m. And I know that they picked that time for the lunch, and I love it because that's when I take my lunch and work. Yeah, like that type of thing, that type of creativity around the game, bringing in new ideas. That's what we want to see.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go over to Kildare, Derry anyways. And again, a shame probably that this wasn't shown anywhere, because this ended up being a cracking game as well, and a game that Derry have pulled away from with a 3-point victory, 315 to 118. Aaron, I suppose Derry, a couple of years without any major kind of wins in league or championship, and now they've got two back-to-back against Tyrone and Kildare. The tide is sort of starting to turn for them to a degree.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I was nearly surprised that this game wasn't shown as well. I'm nearly surprised like BBC didn't show this game. Usually they kind of have a Saturday evening game, so it was a little bit unusual as to how this one wasn't shown. But yeah, look, a mad game, and look, I would actually stand to say that this win is nearly better for Derry than the win last week, because this one they had to dig deep, they had to battle back. They also had a man sent off after 10 minutes in Conor Glass, and from looking at some of the clips I've seen on Twitter, look, a very bad decision by David Goff. And obviously, look, it's only a small angle that I've seen on Twitter from someone else's phone. So when we see the highlights and everything else, we'll get more of a perfect kind of view of it. But yeah, a little bit surprising there in terms of that sending off. And yeah, look, Derry have to dig deep. Obviously, Alex Byrne did get sent off from a Kildare perspective as well. But Kildare were going very, very strong. Ben Lokeman, I think is how you say his name. He scored 10 points. Another new addition into the Kildare panel. He was outstanding. Brian McLaughlin with 1-2 as well. And Derry were absolutely up against it. But, some brilliant 2-pointers from the likes of Paul Cassidy sort of dragged them into it. Shane McGuigan scoring 1-5. Great to see Lachlan Murray back in the side as well. He scored 1-3 and made a big, big impact. And yeah, it's a huge win for Derry to come through it, to dig deep and get the win in the end is absolutely massive, because as we were saying there, from a Derry perspective, like after having gone so long without winning games, to now have back-to-back wins on the board, having to dig deep away against a very good Kildare side as well. But look, I think Kildare fans will take a lot of positives as well, I think, in my opinion, from this performance. 3 points on the board. They've played Kildare, or they've played Tyrone, they've played Derry, and yeah, like the Division 2 promotion race is looking very, very exciting. You have 4, maybe 5 teams in the race as it stands at the minute.
Absolutely. A couple of comments in here still about the games being on TV, and if they put the games up for a $5, they would surely make a profit out of it. Probably would, to be fair. And then Mark coming in saying cameras were there for the Dublin game straight after.
Great point.
Kind of going through your points, Seamus, as well. So obviously we've Peter in here giving his perspectives on the game. We threw it away. Weather was SH1T. And then we have a comment in from Carol saying, GA haven't a clue on self-promotion. They'd rather threaten Aaron over a channel name than encourage content creation.
Stop.
Keep politics out of GA.
my genuine thing is that I have to stress this. TG Car are absolute industry leaders, in my opinion, when it comes to the Super Sunday that they did and streaming the games all at the same time. I think RTE's coverage when they have a game is really, really good. I really enjoy it. And I think GA Plus have been a breath of fresh air since they came in as well, like with their show, like The View and everything. It's been class and their coverage is really, really good. And they have like a bit of fun sprinkled in with the pundits doing the pundits challenges and everything like that. It's really, really good. My only issue that I have no issue with any of the channels individually in terms of how they do their business when they have the games. I really like all of their coverage. My issue is when a primary broadcaster won't show the game. Why is there not a safety net there? Why is there not a safety net that if none of the big ones are showing it, that we make sure that it's live streamed on YouTube, or we make sure, like TG Car, to be fair, are class because they've embraced showing it live on YouTube, showing it live on the TG Car player. I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, this is clearly, and this just from a business perspective as well. I'm like, it's also working for them. They're getting eyes on the YouTube channel. They're getting subscribers on the YouTube channel. They're getting eyes on the TG Car player. Why are you not clocking this? Like, this is another way to bring eyes to your content. So, yeah, I just wish that there's a safety net there in future. Hopefully this is the last year where we'll have to deal with it in the league, and hopefully we don't have to deal with it in the championship. That, like, if nobody's showing the game, if nobody's showing it, what is the harm in letting Clubber show it or it being live streamed on YouTube? What's the harm? It's a benefit for the fans and it's a benefit for the players as well, because it means that their games are being live streamed.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you've said there. Sean O'Malley believing that we should start broadcasting it. We'll give it time. We'll see. You never know.
Not with me and Aaron's Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
like I said, don't care about Wi-Fi. Dodgy
commentators. You crash in 10 seconds.
Dublin is great odds coming in. A lot of radio stations are very good, especially for me as a blind person. And Peter Griffin not saying TGR have the right passion for it, RTE don't. Well, there was one game that was shown on TV, and that was today's clash between Tyrone and Cavan. And Tyrone have picked up their first win, which is hard to believe after the opening 3 games. But Seamus, I'll come to you with this one. A massive win for Tyrone. As for Cavan, 3 defeats from 3 now. Relegation definitely on the cards for them, but at the same time, probably not as close today as they would have hoped as the last 2 games, but a big win for Tyrone nonetheless.
Yeah. I watched this game start to finish, and I have to say, like, Cavan started the game quite strongly. They got the early goal from Madden, and I was thinking straight away, Cavan are up for this. This is a local rivalry between the two of these. They're going to go hammer and tongs for it. And given as well that I know Cavan were coming into this game off the back of 2 defeats, but they were 2 very, very narrow defeats. Like the Cork game snatched from the right at the death, and the Meath game as well. Like it was Jack Flynn's late 2-pointer that won it for the Royals. So Cavan have been unlucky to lose those 2 games. But point is I think I said this to yourself, Liam, on the previous episode, that so far it's gone eerily similar to how Westmeath's Division 2 campaign went last year, and also, funnily enough, Dermot McCabe was the manager, like where they were in every game that they played but lost by a point and ended up going down. This game, I thought, they have Tyrone now, and Michael McKernan got a yellow card very early as well for Tyrone, and I'm thinking he's an aggressive player who plays on the edge. I thought he was a walking red card. But then in the second half, Tyrone just clicked into the gear. Like Dara Canavan as well started getting on more ball, getting the likes of Owen McElhone into the game and everything. Tyrone just started clicking, and then they had the firepower coming off the bench towards the end. Ethan Jordan came on late as well, got a point. Con Kilpatrick, I thought, looked good at centre forward as well. It's an interesting move, moving him out of midfield. Like they have Brian Kennedy still there. They have Joe Goose who came in off the bench. Like they're not short for options there. So moving Con Kilpatrick to the 40 might be an option that Malachy O'Rourke might take seriously moving forward. And they have a lot of players still to return. Shawnee O'Donnell, I thought, looked really, really good as well. And the key thing is for Tyrone is that, look, they got the job done and they got it done convincingly and they're up and running. I thought it would be a lot quicker. I thought they'd win against Kildare. No offense, Peter. On the first day, I did think they'd win that game. I was surprised when they didn't. And then I was surprised by how poor they were against Derry in round 2. But look, they're up and running now. And I still, controversially, I still think they're going to get promoted. And I think them getting promoted, I actually think that could open the door for Cork, because I could see Tyrone beating Meath. And if then Cork beat Meath in that Porky Ring game, I think the two of them might go up together.
Absolutely could. Well, it's a positive start it's a positive result from them today. We have a few more comments. Get Cúilín Media on. Everyone knows you can't beat by his commentary. Paddy Lynch had a good game. We're back, baby. Up the Rebels says, hello, my name is James. And Peter's saying, did you see Rémi Galligan has joined Galway backroom team? That is a very interesting appointment from them.
I did not see that.
And that's very interesting, actually, from a Galway perspective. Could be a huge help to them this year, to be honest with you. Peter also saying, heading to Breffni next Sunday, not really sure what Cavan will be like, wounded if or not at it. Mickey Graham brought him in, says Peter. Back to Ryan. So yeah, that's Division 2 wrapped up. We're at an hour 15 and we don't want to get delusional before time runs out. So
we're already at it. It's done.
We're going to get through Division 3 and we're going to name out some of the results that took place. 2 games that took place last night. The big game that took place in Newry finished down 2 goals and 15 points. Westmeath a goal and 15. And Laois picked up their opening win of the season, a very impressive style, 18 points to 1-8. They defeated Sligo in Port Laois. The other games that took place today, and the one that really caught my eye, Clare going away to Fermanagh and winning by 2 goals and 18 points to 18 points. Very, very impressive win for Clare to be absolutely over the moon with that. A lot of questions potentially for Fermanagh in the future. And then this game, Limerick 1-15, Wexford 1 goal and 14 points. A late win from Limerick there, James. McNaughton coming away with a big, big win for Limerick towards the end. Aaron, Down, I suppose we'll focus mainly on Down and Westmeath. That was the big game that everybody would have probably been talking about coming into the weekend. Down, 3 wins out of 3. Probably not the most convincing of 3 wins, but 3 wins nonetheless. They're well on course to get promotion back to Division 2 at this stage.
Absolutely, yeah. Like at the end of the day, the 6 points is all that matters. They'll take that, over playing brilliant and potentially losing a game. And this was always a bit of a dodgy game for Down. I think Westmeath were coming in great form. I think the both of us might have backed Westmeath maybe to cause a bit of the upset.
Not this guy.
Yeah, we weren't asking you.
Just don't ask me about the Laois Sligo game, and we're good.
Yeah. I think we all took an L there. To be fair, I think we all, but yeah, big win for Down. Look, fair play to them for getting over the line, for getting the points on the board. Like even looking at it on Score BO, like Caelan Doherty with 4 points. Adam Crimmins with 3 points as well. Oran Murdoch, who's been outstanding there. And look, it's not a terrible defeat for Westmeath. They'll still be in the mix. But just on Division 3 in general, like it does seem like a bit of a mental division. Like I think everyone's picked up points. Barron, Fermanagh, Laois, who were almost looking dead and buried themselves, come out and absolutely hammer Sligo. Sligo themselves, I think, have 2 points on the board. Like it is a bit of a mental division. Like Limerick have 3 points on the board now as well. So like even looking at the league table as well, like in front of me here, like it's absolutely wide open. There's a point separating like 6 teams. So it looks like Down are going to run away with it. It looks like Fermanagh maybe are going to get cut adrift, but everything else is completely up for grabs.
Absolutely. Aidan here saying we were dominating Westmeath the whole way up to the 50th minute, beating them by 13 at one point. After we got 13 points ahead, it looked like we took the foot off the gas and Westmeath came back. Mikey saying relegation scrap between Clare, Sligo, Fermanagh and Laois, and also saying the weather was shocking. Newry, that probably adds to the comeback from Westmeath. Really looked like we were going to lose it. Lucky to get out with the 2 points in the end. Jack Nulty saying McGeaney moaning about kickouts or comes across as that, yes, it's chaotic, but there is skill in getting up and fielding and breaking ball. Is it cause Armagh lost twice and no skill blanket defence? I suppose, Seamus, just to wrap up on Division 3, I mean, a great win for Clare away from home against Fermanagh. It puts Fermanagh in a really dodgy position at the moment. For Limerick, to get a late win in the fashion that they did over Wexford, James Naughton getting a 2-pointer, which brought it back to a 2-point game, because this was a 4-point game coming up to the last minute, and then Peter Nash coming up with a late goal to seal victory. that's a massive win for Limerick.
Huge as well to derail the run that Wexford were on too. Like Wexford had started the Division 3 campaign really well, and when Aaron's talking about how tight the division is, I mean, it seems to be every single year. It seems to be just so cutthroat that one win and you fly up the table, one defeat and you're looking over your shoulder at relegation. And the reality is it seems very similar, this division, to how it was last year. I can't lie looking at that. I'm disappointed in Sligo's result there in Laois, because again, on paper everything is pointing towards Sligo heading in the right direction and getting out of Division 3, whether it's the club success that Cúilín had, whether it's the underage success, winning Connacht at under 20 level, the players that they have coming through. And yeah, just a result like that, it just makes you question whether they actually are heading in the right direction. I know that they've got a new management team in this year, Eamon O'Hara and Desi Sloan, but definitely they wouldn't be delighted with that. And 1-8 to put up, whether the conditions are difficult or not, like Laois on the same day put up 18 points still. 1-8 isn't great to put up in with the new rules in the modern game. So they will need to improve on that one, especially with the forwards that they have. They need to be doing better than that. Down in Westmeath, that was obviously the most important game out of the weekend. It's the two teams that everybody's tipped to go up, and Down getting the job done, as Aidan is saying there. Now, I obviously haven't seen this game, but Aidan's saying there that Down were flying ahead and then Westmeath were pulling them back in bit by bit. For Down now, Conor Laverty must be delighted, because on paper anyway, I would say they faced the toughest test in the division, and they've managed to get through it with the win. So all eyes are heading up to Division 2 now for Down, and having looked at how they performed in the championship last season, that's the level that they should be at. That's the level that this Down team should be at. Clare beating Fermanagh is a fantastic result, but it does, again, look very similar to like same old with Fermanagh, that they're just inconsistent as hell. And right when you think that they're heading in the right direction, they have a bad performance. So, but yeah, you can't take away from Clare's win. It's absolutely superb. And again, they're going to be, I picked them that they're going to be hunting around that promotion places, and there will be an outside shot for it. I think, though, they're in a similar position to, you remember how Longford were for quite a while in Division 3, where they were there or thereabouts for promotion every year, missed it a couple of key occasions, and then they slowly slipped away. And I think Clare now in back-to-back years have just about missed it. And I think maybe that could cost them.
Potentially could. Aidan is optimistic anyways for the year ahead, which is good to see. We love to see optimism on this channel anyways. And that brings us nicely on to Division 4. The games that took place over the weekend. The game that happened last night between Waterford and Wicklow finished Wicklow 14 points, Waterford 9 points. So unfortunate there from a Waterford perspective. The games that took place today, a big win for Leitrim, going away to London and winning by 2 goals and 19 points to a goal and 20. So big win there for Leitrim. This result really caught me off guard. Longford going away to Antrim and winning 127 to a goal and 14 points. So a 13-point win there for the Leinster side, and Carlow travelling down to Tipperary and beating them 117 to 114. I suppose, Aaron, Longford and Antrim is probably the one that really stands out, a hammering really from an Antrim perspective, and probably a result that they definitely wouldn't have wanted to see coming, and especially with the way a lot of us were nearly predicting Antrim to have a positive enough league campaign. This could potentially really set them back.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think firstly it's important to give credit to Longford for a big win. I think it's good for Longford football, to be fair, considering the state that they looked to be in last year. And like, they had obviously a heavy defeat to London on the opening day. They struggled at times versus Waterford. So for them to go away to Antrim and win by 13, I think is huge. And for Mike Solon and everything else, I think we're all hoping Longford can kind of progress back up the chain again. But yeah, I think from an Antrim perspective, it is bizarre. I think both football and hurling, they couldn't have asked for a worse start, I think, across both codes. 3 defeats from 3, considering they were a steady team in Division 3 for a good couple of seasons, and now you'd probably rule them out of Division 4. And like I kind of tweeted out earlier saying it's a massive shame what's happening within Antrim, because it feels like a county that, yes, there is history there and everything else as to why they're not a top team, and we'll not get into the ins and outs of that, but you know, they are a team with a lot of potential. They are a team with population and everything else, and you feel like there should be resources there. You feel like they should be doing better. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know what's gone wrong. I don't know if it's a county board issue. I don't know if they haven't got the funding or where it's all gone wrong. But you obviously have the mess of Casement Park that's been happening as well, and that's just been a mess. That's kind of been going on in the background. And yeah, it's just a massive shame for Antrim, because you feel like, for Antrim and for Ulster, it could be a real hub for Ulster football and hurling if we got a venue in that county, whether it is Casement Park or something else. And it feels like a lot of initiatives that have happened haven't worked out. And yeah, Antrim football has regressed hugely, and pound for pound so far this year, they've probably been the worst team in the country, and that's just a massive shame.
Yeah, Aidan had putting it there quite well, to be honest. I've seen Antrim at the bottom of the table is looking terrible. Thought they'd bounce back to Division 3. Casement disaster, Peter also says. And Mikey also saying Longford high on confidence going into that Tipperary game next week. And I suppose Seamus, looking at it, one of the other big results as well, Leitrim. I mean, this is a team that I think. Oh no, I thought you froze again. Jesus, sorry.
I'm still here.
Good stuff. Leitrim going away to London and winning by 2 points. This is a Leitrim team that last year were pretty much in free fall, and now it's a big win to go away to London and to pick up a 2-point victory as well. And when you look at some of the performers as well that really turned up in the second half, Reardon O'Rourke, Tom Pryor getting 1-4 between them, Fergal McLaughlin getting their other goal as well. And even you look at Barry McNulty as well, finishing with 12 points as well. Very positive individual performance. That's a big win, and that could do so much for Leitrim going forward.
Absolutely. And the thing is that it's a win kind of on the, not the brink, but it was a win when they really, really needed that one. A lot of people were saying that London were going to turn them over. And look, the reality is it wasn't an easy game. It was very, very difficult, but London are moving in the right direction, and they were inserting themselves into that promotion race. Leitrim now up and running. They've got themselves on the board, and they absolutely needed that. And I do think for Poacher as well, it's a big win. Just looking across the division as well, Carlow, I want to give a massive shout to them. 3 from 3, really, really impressive start. Chris Blake with 7 points, Colin Hulton with 5 points, Ross Dunphy as well, looking sharp. There's no question about it. They have been building. Neil Carew did great work there as well. I know that they had the bit of the madness with Shane Curran in for the short spell that he was in there. But the reality is now they're calm, they're moving quite well. 3 wins out of 3, they're going under the radar. But to go away to Tipperary and to beat them, very, very impressive stuff. And I think that's the most important result, I'd say, from Division 4 this weekend. Wicklow as well going away to Fairfield, beating Waterford. That's just one where you just have to go there and get the job done, and they did it.
Absolutely. So, well, we have wrapped up the action from what was a crazy football weekend, and we will do it all again next weekend with the football and the return of the hurling as well. We're going to switch the codes up because it was the start.
As 4 codes next weekend.
Oh, lads, we're cooked.
The episode's going to be 2 hours long.
You want delusion? Tune in next week, folks.
Yeah. Tune in at 1 hour 58.
We're going to move over to the start, as Seamus mentioned at the start of the program, the start of the Camogie League, and we're going to start with this game that took place yesterday between Waterford and Cork. A big win for Waterford in the end, a 6-point win, 1 goal and 12 points to 9 points. I suppose, Seamus, I'll go to you first with this one. Matthew kind of said it the other day that he didn't really know how to see this game because obviously, look, it's not a game that Cork will be looking on at the end of the year and thinking this is the most important game of the year. Obviously, bringing in some fresh players as well. Probably wondering if there was a bit of a hangover from losing the All-Ireland final last year. But still, from a Waterford perspective, an unbelievable victory, an unbelievable goal as well from Niamh Rocket. I don't know if you saw it on social media.
Oh, yeah.
And shout out to Cillian Whelan as well with the absolutely magnificent commentary as well as always. But yeah, you have Beth Carton that finished with 7 points as well. And overall, an unbelievable win for Waterford to start the campaign.
Yeah, very, very solid win for Waterford. There is, obviously with the exception of Galway, there's no more impressive way to kick off your league campaign. And for Waterford as well, they've suffered some tough defeats at the hands of Cork, most notably that 2023 All-Ireland final. And I know the players like Katrina Mackey weren't there, Amy O'Connor wasn't there. Cork definitely weren't at full strength, whereas Waterford, like the big players were there. Beth Carton with 7 points, Niamh Rockett with that amazing goal, and she added a point as well. Abby Flynn, Bevan Bowden, Orla Hickey, Lorraine Bray, the captain, they all got on the score sheet as well. But the reality is that it's just important for the confidence going forward that you can beat this team. And for Waterford to kick off their league campaign like that was very, very impressive. That goal as well, like for the Cúilín Media End of Year Awards, we already have a very, very solid contender for goal of the season. How on earth Niamh Rockett managed to fire that ball into the back of the net is absolutely outrageous. And for Waterford, it's a brilliant, brilliant way to start their league campaign. To beat Cork, who have been, they were the All-Ireland champions before last year as All-Ireland final lost to Galway, and they were hotly tipped to go and win it again. So they are one of, if not the best team in Ireland. So to open your league campaign by beating them, Beth Carton with 7 points, Niamh Rockett with that goal and a point, Abby Flynn looking good, Lorraine Bray looking good. Yeah, perfect start for the Daisha.
Absolutely so, and also a perfect start for Kilkenny. They've gone away to the All-Ireland champions, like you mentioned there. No more impressive victory than against Cork other than Galway, and Kilkenny have managed to do that. They've gone away to Ballinasloe and beaten Galway by 2 goals and 11 points to a goal and 13. Aaron, we kind of said it the other day that this was going to be a tough game for both sides to start off their league campaigns. And look, Galway had some of their big players out there. They had Aoife Donoghue out there. They had Carrie Dolan out there. They had Roisin Black at fullback. They had Rachel Hannafy at cornerback. So it's not like they put out a weak inside or anything. They still wanted to go out and win this game. But Kilkenny, massive, massive win for them. And that could do them the world of confidence going forward for the remainder of the league campaign.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, like we kind of spoke in the preview in terms of Kilkenny missing players and players leaving over the last couple of seasons, and there maybe being a bit of a change in the guard within Kilkenny. So yeah, I think to go away to the All-Ireland champions and beat them as comfortable as they did, I think was absolutely huge from a Kilkenny perspective. Aoife Prendergast with 7 points, she was outstanding. Asha McCarty with 1-2 as well. And as you said, like Galway playing a lot of their best players, Carrie Dolan with 1-6 of the 113. So yeah, massive win for Kilkenny, and no doubt like that will give them huge confidence now going in for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. So Seamus, it's probably expected a lot nearly that a lot of teams will be going into the new season after winning an All-Ireland title, and especially look, Athenry won an All-Ireland as well. So you can probably imagine that Galway maybe weren't 100% at the races, which would be 100% understandable. But still very good for them to get these players back on the field, especially playing in a tough ground like Ballinasloe as well, which is not the easiest places to go play any sort of match in at any time of the year, to be honest with you. But to see Carrie Dolan still coming up with 1-6, Roisin Black being able to play the game, Aoife Donoghue playing the game, still a lot of positives to take from Galway. Yeah,
and the reality is that they haven't exactly lost to one of the worst teams in the country. Right? They've lost to one of the better sides. And look, Kilkenny are in that period of transition, as Aaron was mentioning. Like a lot of key players have left the panel over the last couple of years, from Grace Walsh to Miriam Walsh to Denise Gall. They're not there anymore. And they were key players in their All-Ireland wins, especially in 2022 and 2020. So there's no question about it. Kilkenny are in a transition phase, but they're still one of the country's top teams. And for Galway, look, opening up their league campaign with a defeat, it's not ideal, but many All-Ireland champions have done it. And look, training camp will probably have been a little bit slow with all the drinking after winning the All-Ireland. But the reality is Athenry they're going to have to manage bringing those players back in as well. And obviously, it's not really a surprise that, like, as Peter's saying there, Alwyn Rabbit out for a bit, like Dervla Higgins, they're going to have to manage those key players returning from the Athenry setup into the Galway setup. They're going to have to manage bringing them back in and not rush them back in a similar way that Waterford have to do with the Ballygunner lads, etc. So, yeah, I think that's another thing to factor in. They've lost, but I don't think they'll lose any sleep over it.
No, absolutely not. And Peter rightfully putting in the comment about the great Lake Regale episode from Grace Walsh as well.
Marty Clarkson's class as well.
Yeah, have to say all the episodes so far have been absolutely excellent, and I'm looking forward to the remainder. There's 4 left, I believe. There's been 4 that's happened and 4 left to go, and it's an awfully man this week, so I'll definitely be tuning in on Thursday night for that one. So very much looking forward to that. But I suppose wrapping up Division 1A of the Camogie League, Seamus, I'll throw this one back to you. Tipperary 219, Antrim 9 points. Job done in the end. Relatively comfortable for Tipperary, and like you mentioned, as Kilkenny being one of the best sides in the country, Tipperary very much in that category as well, and just in the end, Antrim just didn't have an answer for them.
Yeah, I think Tipperary were always favourites for this game, but it had that little bit of a tricky element in it that it was away from home. But by looking at it, I haven't seen the game, but by reading match reports and everything like that, like it never really seemed to be too in doubt. Cueva Stakelum with 1-4, very, very good. Emer McGrath with 3 points as well. Her scoring consistency rate over the past few years has been absolutely incredible. Couldn't really find any evidence of Roisin McCormack. I don't know, was she in this game? If not, she's their main scorer in chief. So either Tipperary absolutely quelled her or she wasn't in. And if she wasn't in for this game, then it was a massive, massive blow. But Nicole McAtamney with 5 points, she was Antrim's top scorer. It's going to be difficult because they're in this division now with some sharks. Like every single game is going to be very, very tough. And Antrim, I don't think they're quite at that level of All-Ireland contender this season. And you look at Galway, Tip, Waterford, Cork, all of them are. So Kilkenny too. So it's going to be pretty tough.
Absolutely is. And like you mentioned there, she wasn't in the match day panel. So a definite big miss for Antrim there. Just wrapping up the rest of the games that happened across the divisions in Division 1B. Your own County Dublin ended up in a draw with Clare, 16 points to a goal and 13. Limerick pulling off a very impressive victory at home to Down by 12 points to 10. And Offaly, unfortunately from my perspective, were beaten 2-14 to 8 points away to Wexford. Aaron, a draw in the opening game against Clare, positive enough result to move forward, or?
Yeah, like it's kind of a hard one to know. Like I didn't see too much of didn't see the game, unfortunately. But from what I do know, like I think we were in control of it in the first half, and then Clare kind of came back into it. I think Lorna McNamara got a goal just after half time. She also got the goal, or she also got the point right at the death as well to kind of get the draw. So I think maybe in some ways Dublin probably left this behind them from what I've seen anyway, and from what I've heard. So a little bit of disappointment in regards to that, but look, as we were saying there, it is the first game of the league. Still a lot of heavy hitters to come back into the team from what I've seen as well. So, look, it's not going to be panic stations, I think, from a Dublin perspective. And look, fair play to Clare as well. They obviously gave a good account of themselves away from home as well. And yeah, from the sounds of it, it was a entertaining draw.
Absolutely. So, well, going down the rest of the fixtures that took place over the weekend at the start of the National Camogie League, Derry coming away with a 1-point victory over Carlow. That game finished by 16 points to a goal and 12. Last year's All-Ireland Junior Champions Louth were travelling down to last year's beaten All-Ireland Intermediate finalist Kerry, and that game finished 11 points each. And Westmeath and Meath faced off. I believe that game was in Mullingar. I think it might have been switched at the last minute, but Meath winning that game by 2 goals and 9 points to a goal and 6. And running off the rest of the fixtures that took place over the weekend, Tyrone had a big 3-15 to 3-7 win over Wicklow to kickstart their campaign in Division 3A. Before we finish off this episode and bring our delusion to an end, we did have action in the ladies football league that took place over the weekend, and the big game that took place was a clash between Cork and Armagh in Division 1, the round 3 fixture. Seamus, a big win for Cork, probably not one that I nearly would have expected considering how strong Armagh have been over the last couple of years, but that's a big win and that could shake up Division 1, to be honest with you.
No, it definitely could. Like, I mean, Cork, I think all of us tipped Cork to at least struggle relegation, and the reality is they've started their campaign quite well. Like, they had the draw on the opening day against Kildare, and we seen that as the time as being almost a bad result for both of them because they'd taken points off each other. But then Cork have followed that up with going away to hosting Galway and beating them, which nobody would have expected, and then going away to Armagh and beating them. Like, that's fair going, and like they've been moving quite well for a team that have lost the players that they've lost. Like Hannah Looney's a huge blow, Aoife Healy's a huge blow. Like, usually you don't just replace those players, and Cork have been moving well through the league campaign. Yeah, I think that's a huge positives out of that one.
Absolutely. So, well, the rest of the games that took place, it was Division 4 games that was taking place this week. So just to round up the results there. Unfortunately for Kilkenny, their hunt for a first win goes on. They were beaten by Leitrim by 8 goals and 20 points to a goal and a point. Wicklow came away with a 10 points to 9 victory at home to Derry. Sligo came away with a narrow victory over Longford by 2 goals and 8 points to 3 goals and 2. And just to round off the episode, in good spirits, Offaly were beaten once again. They were beaten by Carlow by 2 goals and 8 points to 12 points in the National Ladies Football League. So that is another episode wrapped up on this Sunday evening. Peter saying great review, lads. Thanks a million. See you Thursday 8 o'clock. Thanks a million, Peter, as always, for tuning in. And thanks a million to everyone who's tuned in to us over the last hour and 39 minutes. It's been an absolute pleasure with the two boys. Hopefully we won't have many more issues with connections over the next few days or the next few weeks anyways. But nevertheless, been a very good episode. Like Seamus mentioned, all 4 codes next weekend. So make sure you tune in on Thursday night for what is expected to be a bumper episode. Hopefully we'll have Matthew back as well. But thanks a million for tuning in. Enjoy Allianz League Sunday. Enjoy the remainder of the week. And we shall see you all on Thursday evening. Until then, ta-ra. Follow your instinct, baby.